rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, you gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria, Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, live stream and podcast. How are you doing today? I'm not incredibly well, I have to say. Toothache is better, and whatever it is, this flu-y thing that we've had in our household is still hanging around. But it was a real incentive for me to get up and out of bed to be here with you this morning. But bear with me. As you can see, I'm not in I'm not in the best of shape or the at my full capacity. Am I ever? I'm already hearing some of you say mistakes may be made, or more mistakes may be made than usual. So if you watch this for the production value, I can only apologize in advance right now. I'm really not sure if all the right buttons are being pushed and if everything's set up. But you have been busy this weekend sending in all manner of contributions that I would love to share with you this morning. And apologies for posting the show to the wrong channel this morning, where some of the content has already gone to be lost in the Bermuda Triangle of the internet. So apologies, more apologies to Coach Turner, who's off child wrangling now. Catch up later. God Squad tips on the other channel. I think that they may well be lost forever, because when I realized my mistake this morning, I deleted that error. So maybe we can carry those forward to tomorrow morning, Coach Turner. Good luck with the child wrangling, working with the grandparents, the grandchildren. You're not wrangling your grandparents this morning, because that would be unkind and inappropriate. Okay, that's the problem, says Ancient Mariner, with these YouTube chat shows. You just can't get reliable stuff. It's so true. I'll be the first to put my hand up to that. Ancient Mariner, with exhibits A and B, we have been looking at how the cost of living is rising in Portugal. And I have always said, whilst giving a bit of context for those comments, that, of course, it's all relative. For example, here in Lisbon, I think this is where you were. Which metro station is that? I think I've walked that corridor. Is that the airport one? I'm not sure. But there you go. There's or is it Entre Campos? I'm not sure. But there's a Lisbon coffee kiosk where you can get a café. Un café, faz favor, for 60 centimos there. But meanwhile, over in France, a cappuccino or a latte will cost you $4.60 or $4.70. What are they charging for an espresso there? Presumably not as much as that, but that's a big difference. But I guess they have to fund their riot troops, their stormtroopers from somewhere. My goodness, what is going on in France? How is it for you, Ancient Mariner, where you are? Are you feeling the political temperature rising in France? Horrible to see what's going on over there at the moment. Douglas Hughes, sympathy to you, Carl. Thank you, mate. The lurgy is a horrible one. Yeah, I can definitely attest to that, Dougie. But it's great to be here this morning. And thank you very much, James. Ash melhores, Carl. Thank you, mate. And we'll see you, of course, in a little while. Let's get your ticker tape rolling, shall we? Because we'll see you, James, in about 20 minutes from now. We've got a lot to squeeze in between now and then. It is Mindful Migration Monday with the Fraser of the Good Morning Portugal community, of course, James Holley. And we've got a special guest this morning as well. Anna's coming back at around 9:30. Is Portuguese difficult? I don't think I need any more complications this morning. Running a show is difficult for me this morning. But we're asking that question, is Portuguese really difficult? And you can quote all manner of studies, can't you, to say that, yeah, it's more difficult to learn than X, Y, or Z language. But Are we making it unnecessarily complicated? And then when we give ourselves a bit of an excuse in some ways, yeah, it's really difficult. Does that impede our chances of learning at all? Or do you find yourself in that situation where you've just decided it's difficult and you're actually not going to try anymore? France is dreadful for coffee, expensive and not that good. Okay, so not at all happy about the price and quality of coffee in France. Yes. Okay, I'll take that. Yes. And Portuguese is, oh, okay. Yes, Portuguese is hard because of the new sound. So, yes, says Ocean Dweller. Ocean Dweller, we've got your lovely pictures. I am behind with my work like the man who sat on the bacon slicer. And I've got your pictures, your beautiful Madeiran pictures, which I will share now. A little smattering of them. These go back some way, don't they? You've been, I think, to the mainland and back since you shared these with us. Look at these beautiful pictures from Madeira. Beautiful. And that's where you're headed this morning. Thank you so much for those. And glad I've caught up a little bit. Oh, no, not that one. Yes, while I'm there in the picture deck, like I said, I've got a lot to get through. What's this one here? Madeira Island. This is good to tell you. Did you know this, Ocean Dweller? Madeira Island to be used as a setting for the next film in the Star Wars saga. The landscapes of the Portuguese island will integrate scenes for the next film of the famous world saga. The recordings will run until the end of March. The island of Madeira was chosen to be part of the next film in the Star Wars saga. So good, they named it twice. Is that right? Is it called Star Wars? Star Wars. Filming in various parts of the island will take place throughout this month. Elected numerous times as the best island destination in the world, and with breathtaking landscapes, Madeira will now have the privilege of receiving the recordings of a world phenomenon, the movie Star Wars. According to information provided by RTP Madeira and Antena 1, filming will take place in various parts of the island, namely in the areas of the north and south coasts. A vast team of personnel from the production of the new film were already in island territory, according to public television, to collect images by the end of March. Fabulous. Great. Fabulous. Now, why? Yeah, that's right. That's how Tudor says fabulous. It was great. Is it only last Friday that we were celebrating St. Patrick's Day? Lovely couple of pints of Guinness at Tudor's Welsh Bar. Yeah, I know. Of the obvious place to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, the Welsh Bar in San Martino de Porto, along with some lovely Irish stew. And I posted that wonderful picture of me and Colin Ross Jones, and we were enjoying St. Patrick's Day. And great to hang out with Bobby on Friday and to see how to pour. Even if you can't get the most decent pint of Guinness here in Portugal, he shared a hack with us to at least get some way close to having a decent pint of Guinness here. Okay, we haven't even looked at your comments this morning. How rude of me. Let's go back to those and scroll back to the top where T-Duck came in. Thanks for your call this morning. The reception was terrible, but I got the gist. You're putting it out on the wrong channel, Carl. Yes, I know, and we sorted that out ASAP. Bon dia, Alegria Gumpers from T-Duck with a deep thought. Straight in there with a deep thought from Arthur Conan Doyle. Life, it turns out, is infinitely more clever and adaptable than anyone had ever supposed. Life, it turns out, is infinitely more clever and adaptable than anyone had ever supposed. It sounds a bit like a line from War of the Worlds, doesn't it? Little did they know. Sir Arthur Ignatius. Wow, what a name. Arthur Ignatius Conan Doyle was a British writer and physician who created the character Sherlock Holmes in 1881. I thought Sherlock Holmes was a tower block in West London. Sherlock Holmes in 1887 for A Study in Scarlet, the first of 4 novels and 56 short stories. Elementary, my dear Watson. Portuguese saying then of the day, is Portuguese difficult? Let's find out now. Não deixe fora o bebê junto com a água de banho. Do not throw the baby out with the bathwater. A good ubiquitous phrase in many languages. There it is in the Portuguese for you. Não deixe fora o bebê junto com a água de banho. Água de banho. Sounds like when you say it in Portuguese, it sounds like a cologne, doesn't it? Água de banho. Hunigu Huganunu Rui Nabero. Now, we lost his legend this captain of Portuguese industry over the weekend. The stories I've ever heard about Delta's Rui Nabeiro have inspired me. He's an old school Portuguese industrialist. He started working at the age of 12, helping his father and uncles roast coffee in Spain. And in 1961, he founded Delta. And after a few months, the coffee was distributed all over Spain. He opened a commercial warehouse in Lisbon in 1963 and another in Porto in 64. A leading businessman in the coffee market, Rui Nabeiro established Nova Delta in 1982. In 84, he created a new roasting factory, at the time the largest on the Iberian Peninsula. He was appointed mayor of Campo Maior in 62 and again in 72. Rui Nabeiro is considered one of the greatest Portuguese entrepreneurs and admired all around the world. He died on March the 19th, 2023, yesterday in Lisbon at the age of 91, a victim of respiratory illness. Well, we salute you, you legend, Rui Nabeiro, and I think we need to dive even deeper into that legend at some point. But look him up if you like your entrepreneur stories and inspiration in the business environment. He's your man for sure. Running business in the Portuguese way, not to grow it, to sell it off to shareholders, and not necessarily for the shareholders, but the staff and the family, it would appear. Thank you very much, T-Duck, for that. Dad jokes to come from you a little bit later on. Let's star those up and scroll them away to one side. Apparently, the more you click the like button, the better the staff becomes. Well, we shall see. There's not a single like, hence the quality of staff this morning. We'll sneak in a quick dad joke here, thanks to the Ancient Mariner. How does Bob Marley like his donuts? With jamming, of course. Yes. Portuguese is no more difficult than an advanced calculus. So, okay, people are not having it. There's somewhat coded suggestion from me that it's not that difficult. Anna will come and try and disabuse you of your fears, prejudices, I might say, about Portuguese. Apologies. Oh, this is my comment. Apologies, gentlemen. We appear to have our ducks in a row now. Look, there's the evidence of that. Step away from the ducks, Carl. The restraining order is still in effect. Oh, sorry about that. I've got a jingle for that somewhere. Let's have a look. Yes. Bom dia, a todos de Saleira Pombal. Boa segunda-feira. Looks like Matty's having a nice day over there in Pombal. Yeah, and the God Squad tip of the day, we'll have to go without that today. Maybe we can carry it forward to tomorrow. And good morning, all. Isn't this a lovely greeting from the Ancient Mariner in France? En France, maintenant. Welcome to another day in paradise. What other channel exactly? So far this morning, I have a slinky French lady give me 130 euros without me even asking for it. Things surely can only go downhill from here. How do you do that? The rest of us want to know how you can get a slinky French lady to give you 130 euros. What's that about then? I wonder. Cheers, mate. Get well soon from you. Hola, Pastor. Hope you all had a fabulous weekend. Now we've got some catching up to do with by Randy. We've got the trip to Viseur to share with you. Oh, and the latest in men's fashion. This is not connected with you necessarily, by Randy, but you know I have a mankini. This, thank you to Michael Bliss, who celebrated his birthday at the weekend, is the latest in men's fashion. We will come back to you, by Randy, because my eye was somewhat distracted by these incredible pictures here. The latest in men's beachwear. So, are you working on your broken bikini bod? I think that's what they're calling this, the broken bikini. Forgive me if I'm wrong with that, but does it really matter what it's called when it looks so good? Look at this. There you are with tool belt. I say you. Can you see yourself in this attire? Tool belt with an integral can of beer by the look of it. Nail gun, drill. Very good. I'm not sure that is the most, that's the safest workwear, but my God, you look good, young man, in that. And I have to say, I am very tempted. I'm very tempted. I couldn't get a gold mankini. I have a pride mankini. And now I need to make way in my wardrobe. It's not going to take up a lot of space, let's be honest. For the broken bikini, the latest in excellent menswear. Okay, Andy went to Viseur from the Aveiro area. He lives at some 30 kilometers south of Aveiro in the beautiful Bairrada region. This is the sign for the route that took him, the ecopista that would take him from the Aveiro district to Viseu by bicycle. So let's have a look at some of those videos right now. And we've also got video from him from his trip this weekend over to Barra and Costa Nova. So some video action for you. First, a couple of short vids from the Viseu trip. Not on a bicycle, it would appear, walking and eavesdropping on the conversation of others whilst taking a cheeky selfie of himself later on that same journey.
You don't have these bags, we've got the wheels. Mais des fois j'amène la mochila. Si ça rentre dans la mochila, ça va. Sinon je prends le bus. Le fait d'emmener la voiture et si tu n'achètes pas grand chose, il faut que tu payes le stationnement. L'autocar c'est la même chose, je paye 1,50 €, je ne vais pas mourir. J'y vais à pied et quand je reviens.
There you go, a nice amble from by Rada area, Aveiro district to Viseu district. And they were speaking French. You can't say that Portuguese is difficult by listening to that because they were actually speaking French. Voiture, I heard in that little bit of that smattering of French there. Thank you very much for those, Andy. I'm glad we've dealt with those because I think you did that last week and I didn't manage to squeeze those in. Let's look at your videos now. A little bit longer now, but these are superb of you in the, this is still in the Aveiro district, staying within your home territory and venturing over to the beautiful. Well, people will know this area from some of the picture postcards of Portugal, the candy stripe homes, the candy stripe holiday homes of Costa Nova. So let's look at the first video.
There's a Costa Nova lighthouse, second largest in Europe. Wednesday mornings, I think it is, they do like free tours, and that's Barra, obviously. That's Cafana Nazir. They've got a boat over there. See that big boat? I don't know if you can see it there. That's a museum, Santa Andre Museum, and behind it is where they have the Bacalhau Festival. Loads of tents, marquees. They have like that TVI radio station goes there. Look, tide's out. Flamingos will be here soon. There you go. Ciao.
There you go. My streaming power. No, I'm my computer streaming power. Let me just make that really clear. It seems to be a little bit awkward this morning. I'm not sure if that streamed successfully for you. I suspect it did, and lots of lovely extra information there. Looking at Costa Nova Lighthouse and the fact that you can have a little wander around it on certain days of the week. Thanks to Andy. Continued adventures of Andy then in Costa Nova and Barra.
Okay, here we are, Costa Nova. That's the stripy houses. Very quiet here today, Sunday morning. They have a festival here on this ground where the fishermen cook fish and shellfish and serve it to the public. Over there, that's where they farm oysters and mussels. Back over there on the rear. That boat there is like a restaurant as well, where you can get a nice lunch or a nice dinner. That's a market. Well-known fish restaurant in the area. Whoops, where they serve great fish food, fresh. That's a nice little bar there that we go into. Brandy, chocolate. And there we are. This is a little fisherman's harbour here. At the other end, where we've just come from, is the for the sort of super yachts and all that stuff. Anyway, we're off to Bagheera now. Take care, everybody. Ciao, Bellish.
Ciao, Bellish. That's good to hear. No streaming issues on my end. So glad to hear that. Thank you very much for that, Matty, for that tech report there. That was Mrs. Bairandi and her sister talking English, French, and Portuguese on the old Visio narrow gauge railway line walk. So have they tarmacked over the old narrow gauge railway there, Andy? Now you can just walk from your neck of the woods over to Visio. How long was that journey? Too much wind noise though on your mic there. I think we need to get you a dead cat, Andy, to stick onto your microphone there. I love to hear your wind first thing in the morning. Actually, it's just signs of life in whatever many forms they come. 7 minutes to 9 here on the Good Morning Portugal show. Thank you so much for being here and bearing with as I feel feverish and somewhat stricken this morning. Let me just put my hand on my forehead like that for a moment. I think one of those broken bikinis would be a good thing this morning because it would allow my body to ventilate this morning. And Portugalish liking that look. Now that's a strong look. Okay, just one more time then, seeing as you love it so much, Andy. I'll give you the tool belt version because I think that's yours. That's you, Andy, isn't it, Lord Gilchrist? I wonder if that maybe a little bit of ermine on yours as well to resonate with your lordly status. A little bit of an ermine detail on your broken bikini, tool belt, power tools, and that wonderful new piece of male attire that it will be the sensation of many beaches, I suspect, around the world this year. Thank you very much for that, Michael Bliss, who has put forward the idea that he and I may be models for that particular piece of clothing, male clothing. So check it out. You might see that if you buy GQ or Vanity Fair or other such magazines, the names of which you can clearly see I can't remember or know anything about. Leah H is here. Bon dia alegria. Very much looking forward to being in the Algarve with my spouse in 2 weeks for a month-long scouting trip. Leah, great to see you here. Can we help you at all? We've got Dougie with us this morning, who is an authority on the Algarve, as others are here as well. Portugal 11, Georgia 38. Final match yesterday to determine the champion for the Rugby European Championship 2023. Unlucky Portugal, but it sounds like that was a noble effort there. Bon dia, Carl, from Sarah Taylor. All those late nights catching up with you, Carl? Well, yes, I guess they are. And the news is that we won't be doing Hello America, This is Portugal at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. We're moving that to Tuesday nights, which will go straight into the Portugal Club for people who want the extra attention and support, which is the Portugal Club on a Tuesday evening. So if you're accelerating your plans and you'd like to be in a group of others who are firmly focused on moving to Portugal, and we hang out on a Tuesday evening, and make sure, yes, all those ducks are in a row. Do that with us on a Tuesday evening from 10, and the new Hello America, This is Portugal slot will be from 9 until 10 with a nice lead into the Portugal show. So yeah, we did our best to stay up late on a Sunday, but I think it did take its toll, basically. Well spotted, Sarah. Jess, alô, pessoas. Tinha bom fim de semana? Sim, muito obrigado, Jess. A great weekend, albeit feverish at times. Good morning, Portugal, from Caldas de Rainha, from Joe Diaz. Great to see you here, Joe. Antonio F is here. So you do have a mankini. I do have a mankini. I have no shame in admitting that this morning. Deagle is here with a bon dia, Carl and Gumpus from a wet Belfast, 10 degrees. Also a tired, partied out people. Friday, Saturday, Patrick's Day, Saturday, Irish Rugby, Sunday, Mother's Day. My goodness. Many opportunities to take a little drink there. Only 7 sleeps till I'm back in Portugal. Nice one, Deagle. And I'm doing a lot of catching up this morning because we have your pooch and pussy pick from you. That is Scooter, and I forget the name of your other pet there. You come to home, you just make yourself a nice cup of tea, and you want to put your feet up on the sofa, and look, they're warming it up for you. No room on the sofa for you. You have to go and sit on a stool somewhere else. Please, the name of your other pet there. We've got a Scooter, which I remember, but not the other one. Keep those pooch and pissy pics coming in. And of course, your guest, the Gumper. I'm not sure we got to the bottom of this incredible collection. Who is this? Oh, yes, we did that one, didn't we? Of course we did. But who's this? We still didn't find out, because I don't know myself now who this is with their sibling on Guess the Gumpers. And I don't think we got to the bottom of this one either. So who are these lovely little Gumpers here? And who is this couple? Did we guess this one? I wonder. You had a little bit of a clue this morning. And there was one other one, wasn't there? That, or have I deleted that now? So sorry if I did. Yes, oh dear. I think I may have deleted that. You see, I'm not functioning at 100% this morning. Anything can happen, and it probably will. A bon dia todos from Wayne as well this morning. Smash that like button. I can see that in a paisley print. Your mind is working overtime with this lovely new idea. Thank you very much for your input on that fashion sensation. And I life hack, use an ankle sock over the phone mic. Look at that. How about that? Sorry, mate, for the wind, says by Andy. Probably not the first time you've had to apologize for your wind there, Andy. And who else have we got in this morning? I think, Carl, it's before the watershed, says Deagle, when it comes to showing those pictures of the broken bikini. And Andy will need plenty of sunblock on. How rude. Okay, I think we should play one more video now before we welcome onto the screen the incredible Mindful Monday man. That will be James Holley, the Slug, and the Fraser of the Good Morning Portugal community. If you like, actually a couple of videos to play for you. A quickie from Ian. If you like old motor cars, if you're a petrol head, if you like diggers, if you like lighthouses, those sorts of things, you were in a good place this morning. Very quickly then, a little bit of petrol head action from Donington, where Ian was on Friday. It's a reassuring sound, isn't it? Whoa, look at that. And now some digger action for you. Ground has been broken at Herdad de Mayo. Let me play this for you now. And then after this, we'll welcome James onto the screen. We were talking about trucks. Oh, but I didn't show the trucks breaking ground at Herdad de Mayo. And I did promise it, so I've got to do this. It's only 30 seconds long, Melanie. I don't know if you like trucks and lorries. If you do, you're in for a treat. I love the work Bobby's doing, and I think you might too when you see these wonderful pictures. Thank you for all the translations of chicken soup tonight, everybody. Appreciate that. Look at these. Let's just give you a quick taste of what's going on in Herdad de Mayo. And
if you are needing, like for instance, if you're a digital nomad and you need to work in between Lisbon and your home,
these are perfect. Jump on the train into town. It's 12 kilometers, I think. And it takes about 15, 20 minutes to get into town. And you are energy independent with these. That solar array is independent of the grid. And you can also sell back to the grid. And Mercedes, Bobby's amazing with how he connects with people and networks with people and comes up with incredible ideas, including the architect of this, I should say, Jalal Elali. If you look at his work, I mean, in fact, I'll do that now. His work is extraordinary, absolutely beautiful. Let's have a quick look at some of the other work he's been doing. And this is the sort of work that you're going to be able to see now in Sejal, south of the river, off the screen. And you will see some of his incredible architecture around the world.
Wow,
do you like these, Mrs. M?
They're interesting, aren't they?
Look at this.
I mean, I still fancy
a lot of it in the Middle East.
I still do have my heart set on some kind of
where have they gone?
Dome.
A geodesic.
Yeah, still fancy kind of living in a dome. But
yeah, okay. Well, let's see if he's got any dome. Look at that. Do you like that eccentric shape?
It's interesting.
No, then.
No, I do.
I think these are amazing. Look at them.
I'm more interested in finding the right place.
Right. Okay. Look at that.
They're really interesting designs.
Yeah. I mean, I can see why.
I like having that much light.
Yeah. These are beautiful.
Especially if you've got a beautiful view.
Yeah. Look at this. Quite amazing. Great work there. That will be the architect who's working on Herdad de Mayo. That would be, let me come back to the little plate on the model there. I do love these little models. That is Jalal El Ali.
Yeah.
And there is the model. Reminds me of Zoolander, remember? Anyone else remember that bit in Zoolander? Okay, without further ado, let's bring him on now. Hey! I wasn't getting that at my end there, so that was into the clunky intro, but we love that music. The bit I could hear of it, I loved anyway. Did you hear all of that, James?
I did, all of it.
You were hearing that through StreamYard's cloud and not my computer. What a relief.
And then the music stopped, and there was Carl.
I am so not on my game today.
No.
But I am so delighted to be here.
You're forgiven today.
Oh,
yes.
thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And you, so how are you this morning?
Muito bem, obrigado.
Muito bem,
Sim.
obrigado. Just the way you say it is calming there, James. So what's been on your mind, my friend?
Well, I communicated with you. I still hadn't landed on any sort of inspiration for what I wanted to address today. And then when I woke up this morning, after you had let me know that Anna was going to be on the show again, I said, oh, I've been kind of wanting to look at this notion of beginner's mind. I think that would play really well into learning a language. So I have some thoughts on beginner's mind. I also realized when the theme for Anna's spot is, is Portuguese difficult? I said, well, that goes right back to last week, doesn't it? Difficult, easy, simple, complex. Perfect. So what I'm finding is that the notion of mindfulness is applicable to virtually everything in life. So it's not too easy to find a connection between being mindful and anything else we're up to in our lives. So it's in some ways it's kind of easy.
Yeah, well said, and the mindfulness craze, if you like, and that's how these things seem to work, isn't it? Is that mindfulness, of course, is nothing new, but it seemed to have something of an upswelling of public interest. I don't know, about 10 years ago, and that seems to have continued, doesn't it? Do you think it's kind of disappeared back into the shadows, and we're the only people still talking about it here on Mindful Migration Monday?
I don't think so. As I understand it, and I'm not well educated in Buddhism. I understand some of the basic fundamentals of it. But one of the things I do know is that Eastern thought kind of started working its way into the U.S., I don't know, somewhere between the 30s and the 50s, and that it took a little while for one or two of the Buddhist teachers who came over to the United States to begin getting their message out in terms of this approach to life. So I think it's been growing, at least in the United States, for quite some time. I know that it's still, as far as I can tell from what little social media I connect to, there's still at least a trickle of it running through most of mainstream life. A lot of the concepts that are promoted within Buddhism are definitely quoted in mainstream US culture anyway. It is what it is a Buddhist concept. It's,
Yes, well, it's surprising, isn't it, the amount of stuff that has kind of sunk in, if you like.
Wherever you are, there you are. All this stuff about being present and now is the moment. Anything that reflects that it comes out of at least Buddhist origins, and there may be pre-Buddhism origins to that, but that's the part that I know of. I don't think it's faded away, and in some ways I think it's become almost trite. It's like
that's what
people
happens.
just spout out some Buddhist thing.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Because it's
without
easier
any
to talk about it, isn't it? It's easier to make reference to it than it is to actually integrate it into your daily life. And of course, that's the whole thing about spirituality, I suppose, isn't it? It's easier to talk and think about it than it is to do it.
And I think that's the fundamental, almost the fundamental definition of mindfulness. Mindfulness is a process of going inward, the inward search. And so much of modern culture wants to blame everything on that out there.
Yes.
It's your fault and your fault. And if it wasn't for that, then it's like, all right.
Yeah.
So many of the things we've talked about, what can I do about all of that, is basically nothing. I don't control it. I may be able to influence it, but I don't control it. The only thing I control is me. So, and I know you're in alignment with this idea. So if that out there is upsetting me, what is it in me that causes me to be upset about that?
Yeah.
And then it goes back to that notice, choose, and act. Okay, now I notice I'm upset. Do I choose to stay in this state, or do I want to change this state? And what can I do about that? And that's all on me. And then I take the action that's appropriate for that. So mindfulness really is the practice of looking within. And I think that's the thing that most people don't want to do. I think most people want the magic pill that makes it all better. Makes it feel better, makes me not have to think about it, makes me not sad, makes me not too happy, whatever it is. We just want to be able to take the pill and then have this way of life. But life didn't create itself that way. So if we want that life, it takes work.
And of course, we might apply another Buddhist quality to that, which is compassion. Because of course we would want it the easy way, right? As human beings. Thank you so much, Mrs. M, for the coffee. Yeah, I mean, that we can understand ourselves, can't we, as human beings, that we would want it easy as well.
Yeah, well, and we've seen it in the comments. We hear it all over the place. It came up last week about if things weren't difficult, the life would be boring, I think, or the comment was. I came back with it. I don't think so much boring, but I absolutely understand the element that there is great satisfaction from overcoming a challenge. And we do like that. So if everything was easy, maybe life would be boring. I don't know, but we tend to long for that, and life isn't going to provide it for us. Life doesn't care. Life just moves on, does what it does, and we have to decide where we want to be in life and what that's going to take. So that, to me, mindfulness is a great way of approaching that, whether it's immigrating to another country, navigating a difficult relationship, improving a good relationship, whatever it is, the mindfulness is going to be advantageous to us obtaining the things that we say we want. If we're waiting for the world to give it to us, if we're waiting for life to provide it to us, well, especially if we're expecting that, then we're going to suffer in that attachment.
No, James, don't say that.
It's like, I want to be big and buff, but I don't want to get off my couch. Like, okay, good luck.
What do you mean? So if I want to get in shape for this, I have some work to do. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Or better shape, maybe. I don't know. It depends on the look you want.
Well,
maybe you just change your clothes and you'll get a better look. I don't know.
Can you not get one of those body suits that actually is an all-in-one that gives you a sculpted body with the broken bikini on top of it?
Well, you've seen the T-shirts with the buff body sprayed over the top of them. Yeah, that's one way to look that way. Yeah, at least with their shirt on.
Okay, well, we're on this matter of introspection. If I could just quickly plug, tonight we have our second Life and Death Cafe. Pretty profound stuff, and not everyone's cup of tea. But if anybody does want to hang out with me and Mama Bear this evening, we do this on the first and third Monday of every month, just for an hour, and it's a space to hang out and have a little delve into some of these areas that James is talking about here. So yeah, if that appeals to you, get in touch, send me a message. You can do that on the normal WhatsApp number. As non-judgmental as we can possibly be, and a safe space, although that is a controversial phrase. Everything's a controversial phrase these days in some ways, isn't it? But I think you get the gist. A place where you can talk freely and be heard, which is an unusual proposition. That's certainly something me and Mama Bear are offering. We're doing our best to provide a space in which people can talk and be heard. And I think that's quite unusual. So that's tonight and the 1st and 3rd of every Monday of every month. 7 till 8, drop me a line if you would like to be involved in that. So continuing then with the Buddhist themes and ideas and qualities that have sunk into our society, beginner's mind, is that another one of them, James?
Yes, at least my experience of that was when I was in grad school. I was in a transpersonal psychotherapy program. So there was a lot of emphasis on mindfulness and on meditation and grounding and all of that. And that was relatively new to me at that time. I was familiar with the concepts, but I had never put anything really into practice. And I have found so many people struggle with this concept of meditation. Oh, I can't do that. I can't sit that long. I can't do that. My mind's always going around crazy. A lot of I can't do that things around meditation. And then they'll inevitably at some point they follow up with, what is meditation anyway? So they've already declared they can't do it, and they're not really sure what it is. And when I'm addressing the question, I always start with, well, I'm not an expert in that. I certainly haven't studied it to any real degree, but my basic understanding of it is that it's a function of quieting the mind. And by that, it doesn't mean having no thoughts. And people have this idea that there is an objective to meditation. And most what I have read from the few masters I have read is there is no goal to meditation. Meditation is just being. Just being with yourself. So sitting quietly and being with yourself. And one of the great things that I kind of changed the languaging around it, but the notion of, thoughts are going to happen. Our brains just spin and spin and spin. They're going to happen. So to try to not have thoughts is kind of like not seeing the pink elephant, or not thinking about a pink elephant. Like, or now it's in my head. I can't not think about it. So the notion is don't become attached to not having thoughts. Don't become attached to anything. Notice your thoughts. Oh, there's a thought. If you need to identify it, there's a thought, and then let it go. And what I say is, because the languaging in it is kind of like, don't sit with your thoughts or something along that line. I just say, don't have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
I'm sitting calmly with myself and I go, this feels nice. Yeah, last time I felt this way was, and then you go off on this trip to being, when you went to the beach, and just like, oh, those are all kinds of thoughts. Rather than having a conversation, but just say, all right, there's a thought, let it go, and kind of wait for the next one to roll through, because it's going to come. So the objective isn't to not have thoughts, as far as I understand it. The objective is to notice that you're having thoughts and then let them go, rather than having a reaction to them.
And this is great. There are so many parallels here with learning Portuguese, and the session that we're doing tonight, where you can get heard. I mean, you could say meditation is hearing yourself, couldn't you, in an unjudgmental, unconditional way, and just being there for yourself for a few minutes. The way you describe it is fantastic. This certainly is my experience of it, and my observation of other people's experiences. Like, you sit still, and do let us know, by the way, in the chat. Do you find meditation, if you've ever tried it, as difficult as you're finding Portuguese, which is more difficult? But you would be quiet, wouldn't you? And then the thoughts would come up, and I absolutely agree with you that you can't try not to think, because that eventually leads to you sitting there. Oh gosh,
thinking about not thinking.
Yeah, I'm trying not to think here. Do you mind? I'm trying not to think. Could you stop making thoughts?
Stop it, you idiot.
That is what could happen in meditation. And that kind of is counterproductive, and
Yes, it sort of defeats the whole purpose.
absolutely.
So if we define the purpose of meditation to simply sit with yourself, just be with yourself, I think most people go, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
You know, some people might not. Some people, you know, it's very difficult for them to live with whatever they're up to in their lives. But
yes,
essentially, to me, that's what gave me permission to be able to sit.
yeah,
Because if I was going to try to meditate, that was never going to happen. So why bother? But if I could, you know, simply sit quietly with myself, it's like, oh yeah, I'll do that till I'm bored, and then I'll move on. You know, I can do that. So
I have taught meditation of a kind, and I remember working with a group, and people have near passed out from being in that panic of thinking if they stop thinking they're going to die. This is one experience.
Wow.
And I think it can get to that for people. You know, the attachment to thinking, and I don't mean that in a judgmental way.
No.
But the habit of thinking is so it almost creates our identity, doesn't it? Because thinking does, and it can become so chronic and prevalent that we could think our very identity comes from our thinking, and if we stopped, that would be the end of our identity. Tabitha is here. Bon dia to you, Tabitha. I've been practicing mindfulness for 10 years now and use it all the time, walking, etc. For me, meditation is not just sitting quietly, as the world is not a quiet place. Yeah, it's a sense of just being. Smell the raisin, taste the raisin. Yes, I think anyone who's been on a mindfulness workshop will have been given the raisin, so to speak. Trying not to think of something, the white bear test. Absolutely. So I think there are a few people who have some experience of this. Garvo is here this morning calling us cave people. How should we take that, I wonder? He's always fancied one of those nice orange Buddhist toga things. Buddhist
I would choose that over the mankini, quite frankly.
It is a bit more forgiving, isn't it?
Yes.
Of your Buddha belly. I think I could rock that look. I think you could as well. Would you have your shaved head, Gary, with the robes, the orange robes? You would look awesome. And you might stand out a bit in the forest, though, and only in a good way, I would say. Meditation is the discovery of a power you have long forgotten or never knew you had. Check out the Garvo here. Not far from those orange robes by the sound of it. Okay, say more then, James, about this beginner's mind then.
Okay, I had a thought about the comment about sitting with yourself, and if someone took that literally, I just want to correct what I meant by it, which is being with yourself. Whether you're walking, you're sitting, you're in a conversation with someone, just noticing that you're there and noticing who you are, noticing what thoughts you are having, just being with yourself, no matter what you're up to, which, as far as I know, is virtually impossible to do all the time. 100% of your life is that way. But I think the more we can bring ourselves to that, the less conflict we're going to be in, because in an interesting way, we're with ourselves, and by doing that we can overcome the ego reaction to what's going on around us. And in part because we're noticing it. It's like, oh, that came up. I noticed when you put the banner up for the Life and Death Cafe, and my heart kind of dropped a little bit. And my thought was, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Yeah. It's like, wow, that was interesting.
I don't think you're alone.
And then I looked at it again, and it says life and death. But I didn't really take in the life part. I just took in the death, and I didn't want to look at death, which is very human. It's what we do, you know. And I've done lots of work about my mortality. I'm not afraid of dying. I don't want to not die at some point, but I love life, and I want to live as much of it as I can. So those are the things that when you are with yourself in any moment, you can notice that. And then you can say, what's that about? Why did my heart drop when the concept of death was presented itself in front of me like that, unexpectedly?
Well said. Well said. And don't forget here, if you're thinking, I am not interested in meditation, why are these guys talking about meditation? The parallel is so strong here between any resistance you might have and ideas about meditation as it is about the Portuguese language. Funnily enough.
Learning a language, absolutely. Yeah, this is where the beginner's concept was so, you know, it's like, oh, brilliant. Because as I understand the beginner's mind in the approach to meditation or the approach to a Buddhist lifestyle, is that as we practice and as we get better, we sometimes struggle because we think, well, we need to get better, or we need to do it, whatever. And the notion, the approach of beginner's mind is, remember back when we first started, we knew nothing about this. We knew nothing. Let's take that position. I know nothing about meditation. Now I'm going to go back to it. Whatever bad habits we've gotten, whatever things have pulled us away, we can just say, I give myself permission to be a kindergartner again.
Yeah.
And to approach whatever I'm approaching from that place, starting over, but we will have the benefit of the experience we have acquired. So we probably will accelerate through it or whatever. But it's that space of saying, looking back, for instance, the language I know, the language that I speak generally very well. Every once in a while, there's a considerable fumble, but for the most part, I feel I speak the language I learned really well. And if I give myself permission to look when I'm approaching a new language to say, how did I acquire the language I have? The language I'm so skilled at now. How did that happen? Was I speaking this way when I came out of the womb? No. Was I speaking this way when I first heard the language? No. Was I speaking this way when I was 1 year old? No. How about 2? Well, at 2, after 2 years of being immersed in nothing but this language, I started to speak it. I understood it sooner. When people gave me directions, I could understand it, but I could not speak it until roughly 2 years old. And that's not just me, that's developmental, it's pretty much true of most people. Somewhere around age 2, children will start to speak the language. So if I can look back at myself that way and then approach a new language like Portuguese, then I'm approaching that with beginner's mind, and I am a beginner. So I have permission to be a beginner. I think what gets in the way is this adult mind that has this language already that loses patience. Oh, I can't do this, or it's too hard, because that adult mind wants to understand it immediately, wants to be able to speak it immediately. That doesn't give us permission to be a 2-year-old and acquire it a little at a time.
Well said, sir. And this is applicable not just to Portuguese. It's applicable to meditation, as we've been talking about, and you can bring the beginner's mind to anything, can't you?
Yes, I even made a bit of a list of that. Like, what are places where beginner's mind can be really beneficial? We talked about meditation. We can go back to that, which is connected with mindfulness, which is a part of what we're doing now. Mindfulness is looking at ourselves as we have this conversation.
Yes.
Looking inward, which is a part of what we've already talked about. Language we just covered, but falling in love again with the person we live with the country we live in. Beginner's mind takes us back to the early awe we had when we arrived. Yes. When I have guests here in Ericeira, I always walk to the first place I had my oh my goodness experience of Ericeira. I go back to the end of the entry into the villa, and sometimes we're walking the opposite direction, and I say, and this is my first memory of Ericeira, and we turn around and we look at it. It's like, oh, and I can see it from that beginner's mind.
I've never been there, but the way you talk about it, I can feel it, James.
Yes.
The way you're talking about it.
And it's only by going back to that beginner's mind that I can have that experience again. It may not be as full of, brain chemistry reactions to it, but there's this memory of, oh, yeah, that I don't have if I'm just walking through, not paying attention. So that beginner's mind can do that. And it's really helpful when you have a beginner. You have a person that you're showing around that hasn't been there before, because they are in beginner mind there with that experience. So take a look at that and they go, oh, and you go, yeah, that's what I felt. Fantastic. So there's that.
I think we are ticking a few boxes this morning. People are resonating with this idea. James, if I could ask you to zip up your hoodie a bit, we're getting some of that.
Again, we're getting that.
Getting a little bit of abrasion or something from your.
I'll zip it
might
down.
be from your beard. I'm not sure. That's going well so far. You're just so hairy, man. You're just so hairy. You're just so hairy and rugged. That's actually coming across through in the sound now. Other than
How about now? Are we okay?
yeah, pretty much. Anna's going to be with us soon, and we'll continue this mindful approach to learning Portuguese from your point of view, James, and bring on board some of the tips that Anna's got. But I think something that's being that is universal here is looking at what's going on in yourself when you have all those ideas come up, like this is difficult, or I feel like an idiot. All those sorts of things are things that you don't have to judge yourself a second time for. But if you see yourself doing it, you can give yourself some freedom and get into that beginner's mind that we're talking about here. Other than meditation itself, does James have a tip for fearful thoughts that might stop us from doing something that we know is actually good for us? Wow. Sometimes I feel that motivation just increases the resistance at times. That's interesting, isn't it? And before you answer that, I'll roll in Wayne's comment here. Mind like water. He's sounding like a Zen teacher this morning in his part of Portugal. Put things in the way and the water bounces and crashes everywhere. Remove all the stuff and it runs smoothly away. So what would you say about this fearful thoughts and how to approach those from a beginner's mind point of view, James?
Well, I would say the least helpful thing would be to try not to be fearful.
Yeah.
It's the resistance. It's the pushing against it. Don't look at it, push it away. Don't be afraid. You have nothing to be afraid about. It's not going to be very helpful. For me, it's pretty obvious when I'm talking about mindfulness, it's looking within. So for me, when I notice, ooh, I'm kind of afraid of doing that, then the question becomes, what am I afraid of? I mean, truly, not like, oh, what are you afraid of? There's not trying to dismiss it, but to genuinely be curious. What is it that's generating this fear? So maybe the question when you notice you're being fearful is, what's the fear, or what am I afraid of? Because typically, especially with language learning, it's embarrassment, it's getting it wrong. And in our lives, we haven't had permission to be wrong, or we've had really bad experiences of being wrong that we haven't resolved. Embarrassment is a function, I think, of our reptile brain, that we need to be included in the group. And if we somehow do something that causes them to cast us away, then we won't survive. I mean, it can go that deep. But so maybe just simply asking the question when you notice that you're being fearful, what am I afraid of? And I'm not immune to this. In the practice of the language, still, even now, after over a year, I hesitate to speak because I'm afraid I'm going to do it wrong. I'm afraid I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm afraid I'm going to make other people uncomfortable because they want to understand me, but they can't. It's like all of those things. When I look at it, I say, just say it. Just say it and see what happens. And maybe, yes, all of that happens, but it's happened before and you're still alive. So those kinds of things help me after I look at what am I afraid of, is reminding myself. I mean, a great mantra for me is I'm still here.
Well done.
No matter what I've been afraid of, no matter what has faced me in my life, no matter how many times I thought it was going to kill me, I'm still here. That's great evidence. I have years of history to prove that it didn't kill me.
And in some ways, as the old cliche goes, it made you stronger, didn't it? All those things that didn't kill you, perhaps. I know that's overused and can be as unhelpful as it is helpful. But yeah, I think there's some truth in that.
It's not helpful in the moment of fear.
Yeah, well, just get on with it.
That's right.
I think taking action is helpful too, isn't it?
Yes.
And taking action with the beginner's mind could be useful there, couldn't it? With that situation you described, Sarah, and acknowledge what comes up. Go into the situation you fear, whilst being aware that you're afraid. Because
sometimes speaking it, sometimes just owning it and saying it to others, like, I want to speak Portuguese to you, but I'm afraid I'm going to mess it up. Sometimes that just gives you, takes the complete burden off of it. Just speaking the truth about that fear.
Excellent.
I mean, you don't want to give them an hour thing about where it came from and how you were treated as a child and so on. But
why not? Okay, a couple more comments before we bring Anna on, who I think may have something to add to this and broaden and enrich this subject this morning. Is I guess we could say, is Portuguese difficult? Is life difficult? Because it's all the same.
Life is life.
It's all the same stuff, isn't it? Portuguese is Portuguese. It is what it is. And then we add something on top of it, don't we? I take a creative approach to the Portuguese language. I read about their history, culture, symbolism, semiotics. Oh, like a semiotic every now and then. Art, poetry, music gives me a deeper understanding of the origin of the language. I feel that, Tabitha, when you say that. That sounds really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it goes into language because I'm really interested in the origins of words and where they come from. I look at the commonalities in English to Portuguese and other languages I have a little experience with. I notice the similarities. I'm curious about the meanings, and that helps me to then be motivated to actually be able to speak and understand the language I'm in. So,
yep, there you go. That's great, Tabitha. Thank you. And James, whenever I am scared about the next steps I need to do or fear failure, I tell myself that others less smart than me have done it successfully. Then so okay, that's good. Look down on other people. That's a good little life hack there. I need to get out and do what replenishes my spiritual reservoir. It's been a little on the low side lately with all the negativity and hostility in the world at the moment. Thank you for
that. Get out of nature, Gary. I know that's your place. That's your
well said. And seriously, mate, get old Buddhist robes on because I'm liking that. People will approach you. Strangers will approach you for advice. And you're capable of giving it, Gary. Move into that elder position, my friend, and a little bit of Proust them by way of welcoming Anna to the screen. Who doesn't like a Proustian introduction first thing in the morning? The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeing new sights, but in looking with new eyes. Oh, yes!
Just as a quick aside, my brother used to make jokes to my mother who had Alzheimer's, and she had a great sense of humor. And she would say, "Have I seen this movie before?" And my brother would say, "Yes, but you don't remember. So it's like you're seeing it brand new. Every time you get a chance to see this movie, it's new and fresh and exciting to you." And she goes, "Oh, okay." You know, it was like
beautiful. That is beautiful. That's beautiful. And I don't think should be undermined in any way. That's
no. It's like one of the great advantages you have, Mom, is you get to do everything like it's brand new.
Beginner's mind, right there, which many of us
built
are unable to put into action. Okay, sorry to keep you waiting, Anna. Nice big round of applause for you.
Thank you.
There she is.
Thank you.
Good morning to you.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. How are you?
We're pretty good, thank you. Muito bem, obrigado.
Muito bem, sim.
Muito bem. Estou constipada.
Oh, também aqui.
Still have a cold. Visited Belgium last week, just one day, and caught all the bugs. So, but other than that, I'm great.
Now, humor is really important as well, isn't it, when it comes to learning a language? And constipado is one of those great moments of humor in the Portuguese language. And some people may well have thought that you were constipated, Anna, and that you were oversharing this morning.
Yeah, no, I'm not over. I wouldn't do that. But it's just a cold. It's just a cold. Yeah.
My vocabulary Rolodex just went. Oh, constipado. All right, I got that one.
Yeah, it's the same in Dutch. So not the same. Okay. It's the same as in English. So it's strange for me to say that I'm constipada too. Yeah, because in Dutch it means constipated and not
a different side of the body.
Yeah. Funny detail: when we go the first weeks when we moved here and we went to the shops, like everywhere you have like a pulpa já.
Yes,
pulpa. Yeah, so pulpa. That's the thing is in Dutch, in Belgium it exists too. The word exists, but with a completely different meaning. And it also exists in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, poepen is to go to the, do the number 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Poop in English, yes. Poop.
Yeah. Poop, yeah. And in Belgium, so where I come from, it means to have sex. So everywhere we go in the shops, they're advertising sex. Yeah.
Wow. What?
Yeah.
So not only is Portuguese may or may not be difficult, but you have had your Belgian vocabulary expanded, everybody. That's a free gift this morning, courtesy of Anna. People will not know where to look next time they go to the supermarket.
Yeah. It's really, the beginning was really There's everywhere. It's everywhere. Yeah.
What's it like for a Portuguese person going to Belgium? I wonder. Okay.
Yeah.
You're here to answer that question. Is Portuguese difficult? Because I think you take the view that we perhaps overplay that, and it can become a syndrome, can't it? If you believe it to be difficult and you don't apply the beginner's mind that James has been talking about this morning, you're doing yourself no favors. So what would be your opening gambit on that? Before you answer, I think there's a look for you from
look, yeah, funny. It's true. Yeah.
What does that mean though?
Look, it's just funny. She says that's funny. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Excellent. So what do you make of this then, Anna? Do help us, please, especially those people who've become increasingly debilitated with their ideas that Portuguese is difficult or very difficult, or they'll never get there.
Yeah, I think it's the first sentence you hear when people talk about learning the language. Oh, it's so difficult. And then the accent and everything. And well, there's lots of things to say about that. And I've heard part of the podcast before I came in. So I'm lots of things have already been said about having the right mindset is so important. Limiting beliefs are, well, it's as you said, it's also something you not only have for Portuguese, it's something that goes through life and that we are that limits us for many things in life, and it's the same for Portuguese, of course. But I think that there is an extra dimension here, which is a bit maybe a cultural dimension. People watching this are English speaking. You are all very blessed and cursed that wherever you go in the world, people speak English. So you've never had the necessity to learn another language. Maybe you have studied something, another language in school, but it was never actually very necessary. There is a difference, for example, where I come from, I'm Belgian, Flemish Belgian, which is also a difference because there's French-speaking Belgians and they have a different history when it comes to learning languages. We have historically always been forced to adapt language-wise, because before in Belgium, the French-speaking part, the French-speaking people were the ones with the money, so we used to be the farmers, the poor people. And whenever we wanted to achieve anything in life, we needed to learn French, for example. So we have a completely different approach to learning a new language because historically, Flemish, not all of us, of course, but it's, you could say in general that we also have the reputation wherever we go. Oh, Belgian, oh, you speak many languages. So that's the reputation we have. It's because we've had to do this. Before, and so we have a different approach. We don't in general, of course, we don't have that fear of making mistakes, coming across as ridiculous. We just do it, try. It's very difficult to, because I understand if for English speakers there is like the necessities is less there. Even in Portugal, many people speak English. If you were Romanian, for example, you'd have to learn Portuguese probably quicker, because you don't have that liberty of still going back to your English. And when it comes to being difficult, that's just because your brain hasn't trained itself in listening and hearing new sounds. And let's be honest, the sounds in Portuguese are quite specific, of course. So what I would do, this is very practical tips that I give also my clients who are afraid of speaking publicly or professionally, it doesn't matter. It's always the same. It's always about limiting beliefs. Practical tips that I give and that I apply to myself too for Portuguese, for example. Wherever I can, I prepare myself to any kind of conversation that I might have. So in the beginning, the only thing I did was talk to myself and present me to myself and say, just, where I'm from, that I have a son, that I'm here on my own with my son, that we live in San Martin, you know. That was in the beginning what I tried to tell myself. And then once people ask you the question, you trick your brain because it thinks that you've already done this. You've done it, but you talk to yourself. And it helps to get the fear down, the level of fear down, to be, you know, to start, because it's the starting to speak that is the most scary, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Once you've done it, it's over. It's not that scary anymore, but it's the beginning. And now on a different level, I do the same. Last week I had to go to the bank, very complicated conversation with about business with my bank director, and I just prepare myself for that. I talk to myself in the car, going up there, and I just say, okay, this is what I want to say, this is what I want to ask. And once you come in, you have like the idea that I've done this already. It's done.
Oh, yeah, okay, very good.
Yeah, it really helps.
And this idea of tricking the mind is an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Again, I suppose it's been implicit in what we've been talking about, but there is an observer of these other faculties we've got, which I suppose is part of mindfulness. One of our faculties is this brain that we can play tricks on, and that's a really good hack that you're talking about there, Anna. Is to the mind, the brain, if you like. I mean, whatever we're talking about there, I think we've got an idea of what that means, because of course it's a very complex organ, central to human survival and existence. But this idea of playing tricks on the mind is an important one and a useful hack. Have you got any others that help us with that? You know, that transcendent view of the brain, rather than being consumed by it? Because I think that's what's going on here, isn't it? People think they are their brain and their thoughts,
but we are overthinking everything. Yeah, we're overthinking everything, and that's a problem for lots of things in life. We talked about it last time. Like, you have to approach language learning as if you were a kid, and kids go very intuitive. It's not, they don't approach it in an academic way. When you talk, for example, about the difficulty, what I hear a lot, people say, yeah, I can read Portuguese, I kind of understand it when I read it, but then people start to talk and it's just so difficult. The accent and all those new sounds are so difficult. I just block. That's also something, if you approach it in an intuitive way, what does a kid do? It imitates sounds before it understands what they actually mean.
Yeah.
Do that too. Wherever you hear a sound, a word, or whatever, try to imitate it. I do that constantly.
Yeah.
There are still sounds that I find quite difficult to get exactly right. So I'm just, when I walk on the beach or wherever, when I know I'm on my own, I try to repeat whatever I've heard until I get it exactly right. And in the beginning, I didn't even know what I was saying, but it helps also there to, it's strange because you do it, you think you have to understand, like use your mind, like
you want to.
Yes, you have to know before you can do, but it's the other way around. You have to do and hear and like feel the language before you can know the language.
God, if life was like that as well, man, maybe it is.
Yeah, it is.
If we took action and weren't impeded by constant rationality and judgment, we'd live a very different life, wouldn't we?
Yes, we would.
Well, I keep thinking
it's a constant struggle.
Yes.
Yeah.
James.
I keep thinking of music, you know, singing songs, especially popular songs. I have been amazed a few times when a non-English speaking group sings an English song nearly perfectly and can't speak a word of English and say they have no idea what the song means.
Boom.
But they can sing it, because in that environment, it doesn't matter if they understand. Well, they may understand the general idea of the song, which is why they're singing it, but they don't have to know all the words and all the subtleties. They
might not be able to formulate a sentence in English just out of top of their heads.
And that's all just about copying, mimicking the sounds that you hear over there and just doing it over and over. Yeah.
But to be fair, James, you know, once you've learned the words to Hotel California, what else do you need in life? It's got everything there, isn't it? We have a comment. Sorry, Anna, I interrupted you. We'll come back to you in just a moment. But look, this is an interesting sentiment. The people I have met who say Portuguese is difficult speak only one language, their own. Oh, and I feel a bit of a whinging pom when I go to the pharmacy and ask for anything to help cure my gripe there. And also, we need to get this out of the way, don't we? Another one that causes English people to giggle a little bit is the fucker. Fucker means something very different if you come from...
I have so much fun with that word.
Yeah.
You ask for a knife when you don't even need one.
Fucker! There's the knife.
Naughty man. I'm A2 level. It is difficult. Carl Hyde is not having any of this. It is difficult. Latest hurdle for me is pronouns. The thing is, now I am getting to grips with that particular aspect. My reading ability has improved massively. Anna!
Yeah, I have so much to say about this. Yeah. First of all, please let go of that levels thing. That's the first thing I tell my clients too. Like A1, A2, B1, C minus, it means absolutely nothing. I'm sorry, but that's my conviction. Why? Because you have that level, because it's always situational, always those levels. If they test you with that sentence and not with another one. So it depends. If you take a test now, it might have a different result today, tomorrow, in a week. And also it depends on the type of questions they ask you. Also, I think that this level, it's good that there are I know why they are there, but I think that people are too much focused on that level, because it gives the idea also somewhere in the back of our minds, A2 is beginner. So I don't quite have the right to speak it yet because I'm only a beginner. So be very careful with those levels. Don't let anyone tell you A1, A2, and then don't tell yourself that having a certain level does not allow you to have any conversation. I don't know which level I have in Portuguese, and I don't care.
You rebel.
Well, it's just I have no idea, because it depends on the situation also. If I'm not prepared, if I come into a situation where I'm not, exactly my example from the bank, do I know any technical, am I, in the financial world, I don't even know many financial words in my own language, let alone in Portuguese. I looked 3 of them up. That's also something I do. If I really want to prepare for a conversation, I limit myself to 3 words. I look up 3 words that I really want to be able to use, and I use them in my preparation. That's what I do. Not more, because you have so many other words in that language already that can explain exactly the same, be it more simply or be it more elaborate, because you need more words because you don't know the word. So be careful with those levels, because they can also put limiting beliefs in your head. Yeah.
Well said. And it is the beginning of the end. You know, you talked about the intuitive way of learning a language, the natural way, you could say, when kids imitate and soak up the language before they even try.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What turns a child into an adulterated adult is all of these levels and
the test.
Yeah, the testing. And that we know what that's done to all of us, don't we? We do know what that's done to us as people. That we're trying to come out of that now.
To be fair, there is a requirement for obtaining permanent residency and citizenship, a certain proficiency that they call A2. So I have to know what does that mean? How does that define? What are they looking for? And can I do it? Now, I don't learn according to what level I am. I'm sure I can say some things that are A2 or more because I've memorized them, because they're a necessary part of my life. Like, I know how to say I'm getting off the bus at this destination, but I need to get my bicycle out of the cargo compartment. I know how to say that in Portuguese because I asked a Portuguese person how to say it. I wrote it down and I memorized it. But it's very much what you're saying, Anna. It's the practice and the application to a specific situation that will be helpful. And now I've got it. And I can apply that to other things. I'm going to get off wherever. I can just fill in the blanks. I need to do this. You know, the parts of that one memorized thing can be applied to many, many, many different circumstances.
Absolutely. And
just fill in the blanks.
There's just the danger in that thinking in levels. There's absolute danger in that, because it just puts you in like that's your category, and maybe you don't feel like you have the right to speak or try to speak before you get to B1 or B2, and that's just
Well, look, this is Matty's saying here. This is fascinating because I understand attendance on some of the government offered courses is enough to get you the certificate. Now that can't possibly. That is, to me, that's rationality gone mad, because some people cannot speak Portuguese after they've gone to the class for 1,000 weeks or something and turned up and had a tick box and been given their certificate. They still can't speak Portuguese, which fair enough if they need it for a particular reason. I understand that, but that's madness, isn't it? I did the free government support Portuguese course right to A1. Then I stopped as it was a waste of my time, as I don't feel any better prepared for Portuguese conversations. I am now learning by doing. I have Google Translate or others to form the sentences and speak them out. Thank you for that, Matty.
Speaking of Google Translate, can I just add that, because I've been told many times, and I have found it, that if we are using the translator to learn, we're going to forget because we're not applying it. I only use translation to confirm whether I've got it right or not already. Like I've worked it out. I think I would say it this way. Let me check. And that's a much better way for me to learn than using it to translate. In a situation of necessity, I can't communicate. I need to get something done. It's happened to me with the Social Security office. I needed to get my number and she didn't speak English. So we got out the translator and we just kind of did that. Well, okay, that was a functional necessity, but it's not how I'm going to learn the language.
I do agree with that. Translator, it's good that they're there. But try to, because that's again like a safety net, which is good if you really need the safety net. But in most cases, you don't need them, and it doesn't help you learn, because you will fall back onto that every time. Then once you start using that. I wanted to say another thing, if I can, about the previous comment about the A2 level and then struggling with the pronouns, blah, blah, blah. Okay, do you need those pronouns? You don't. Just let it go. Let it go. Those pronouns will come. Okay. I've talked last time about Stephen Krashen, the big scientist, is God when it comes to second language learning. And he has 5 theories. One of those theories is just about that. It tells you that grammar is never learned in a logical way. And that's what they try to do with those language courses. They go, okay, A1, you need to do this and this and that. No, this and this and that. A2, you need to be able to formulate this and this and this, grammar-wise. And there is nothing natural about that, because grammar is acquired in a natural order. And if you have like the comparison with English, people who learn English as a second language will learn I work, you work. He works is very simple rule. It's just add an S in the third person singular. It takes time, lots of time, before people can acquire that as a second language, which is really strange because it's a rule, just learn it by heart and just do it. What we see is that second language learners, English, my cat's attacking me. Stop that. Oh God.
The cat speaks English.
Yes, I am right.
Stop it, you idiot.
Stop saying that. It's not true. It is. Is that they first learn the ing form, so the continuous form. We see that second language learners learn I work, you work, still say he work for some reason.
Yes.
For a long time. And then first they learn the continuous form. Whereas in school, we try to enforce that first you do the present tense, completely, and you have to master that before you can go to the next level, right? And it's just wrong because the brain doesn't work that way. So if you have difficulty with the pronouns at this stage, it will come. It just means that you need to automate other systems first, and the pronouns will come whenever they come. It's not, and you don't actually need them. I mean, you can point at things, and people know that you are not Portuguese. So if you don't use like the polite form or whatever, they don't care. They are forgiving. It's not that important. Yeah.
It could be worse. You could be in France. Right. Okay.
For example.
Who was that teacher you mentioned, or the language psychologist?
It's not a teacher. He's a professor. It's a very, very intelligent man, Stephen Krashen. He's American.
Yeah.
But what he's been explaining, he's already a very old man. It's so old. I think he started in the 70s with his theory, and it makes so much sense. And every other research. This is really bad. Every other research.
We're going to attack live on a live stream by a cat.
God. Okay, I'm back. Every other research, every other research that followed that is based on his findings, and the strange thing is, it never trickles down to language schools somehow. His theory, because if we would follow his theory, we would not learn languages the way that we are doing now. Absolutely not.
Yeah, that is the limitation, isn't it, of institutions. Of course, institutions tend to be very rational and use these levels. Of course, they do. I use the level as a guide, a framework to work within. I'll happily butcher the language with anyone on a daily basis. Well done.
Good
Get
for
out
you.
there and butcher the language. Well done, Carl. And I think it's, people know from their own experience what you're saying is true, Anna. Anyone who sat through being told how to conjugate verbs, their head hurts afterwards, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No one after that says, "Oh, I feel so light and free after that hour of conjugation." Thank you.
I can now put that in practice without any mistakes. There is
no one ever.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. And that's normal because our brain just doesn't learn that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Portuguese with Leo. Look at this. He loves Stephen Krashen as well. So some people use Portuguese with Leo, and Stephen Krashen has taught. That's a wise teacher who speaks to the great Stephen Krashen. Then this is wonderful. Thank you so much. Gary says, I like practice Portuguese because I tend to struggle in a classroom environment. I can learn at my own speed and repeat things as many times as I like without feeling self-conscious.
Very good. Just repeat the sounds, the words. It's so much more important than you would think. People think that they need to know and understand and It's just have fun with imitating the sounds. It's much more valuable than you would think.
Yeah, and saying things out loud, saying them, because I've read stuff and I know it. I know the word for this fruit. I know this.
Yeah.
And then I go try to speak it, and it's like I haven't practiced that, and it just doesn't come out right. So don't just read it, say it.
That's
laranja. Okay, laranja, turanja.
It's a miserable world when everything takes place inside. Speak it and hear yourself. Bear witness to your own self.
Even when especially when you're all by yourself.
Yep, sounds good. Passers by love seeing you practice Portuguese on your own with that frown on your forehead. Look at this. Have fun as well. The beginner's mind offers some great mirth and merriment. I remember in the early days going into a cafe for a tuna sandwich. That would be a sange atum, I think, and ending up with a prawn salad. It was nice though. Says Gally from Birmingham. Excellent stuff, Garvo. And I go back to what it gives me great comfort and something you said earlier on, Anna. Before we finish, I'd love you to talk more about the course you want to offer here. Days in the Bay in San Martino. It's coming together. We're going to get together and do exactly what you're talking about in an extended way together. But what gives me so much, what makes me feel so privileged and slightly awkward in the way that you were talking about before. Us English speakers, for whom it's a blessing and a curse to have the ubiquitous language of the world. When other people not so fortunate to have English as their first language come to work in any country, including Portugal, and they find themselves in a kitchen, a shop, or a building site, they learn the language, don't they? Because they are immersed. They are immersed. They are not worried so much about getting it exactly right. They are just carried along like water, like Wayne was saying. They are in the flow.
And a lot of the language is constricted to the specific environment they're in, right?
Absolutely.
So they can learn the language of cooking or learn the language of, in that particular thing faster, and then expand that out into the real world. Yeah.
And they have to, don't they? They have to. Whereas for us, it's like, well, do you know what? I don't know if I'm going to embarrass myself with Portuguese today or not. I might just
that's the thing, isn't it? Yes.
That is so prissy, isn't it? And easy for us. Look at this. I can swear like a trooper in Portuguese.
Woo!
And there was
you need that. It's part of the culture. You absolutely need that.
Yes. Netflix translations has been really helpful in acquiring Portuguese profanity.
Yeah. Be careful, says Gary, about asking for an ice cream in a cone in Portuguese. Well, please go and ask for that today. Get yourself in some trouble. Have some fun with that and let us know how you get on tomorrow. Anna, Days in the Bay, your extended immersion experience. Tell us a bit more about that. What do you envisage?
Yes. What we've been talking about is the basis or the idea, the starting point for having a couple of days, hopefully, at the Bay. Does have that helps.
Depends on how much talking you're doing.
Depends. Yes, true.
Okay. Anna, back to you.
Sure. Yeah, back to the Days in the Bay. So none of that during the Days in the Bay.
Okay.
No, sorry. So the idea
we would be in
is
so much trouble if we advertised that, wouldn't we?
Yeah. Won't do that. So the idea is not only, because I think it's a larger concept, it's not only about language learning, it's also about limiting beliefs. It's about looking at your own limiting beliefs, trying to find a way to work around them, but also at the same time embracing the culture. I think one of the comments also said that it's so important to really feel and understand what the Portuguese are about, why they express certain things a certain way, etc. So we would do a combination of language learning, getting the limiting beliefs on the side, and at the same time enjoying Portuguese culture. And that can be through music, because I think that's a very important aspect of any culture. But it could be through like visiting something, having a good Portuguese meal made by yourselves, trying to figure out the ingredients, the way to ask things, etc., prepare things, giving all. There's so many options that we could try to discover. I was thinking, I already said that to you, didn't I, Carl, that it would be nice if maybe for next time I would make like some kind of online questionnaire, where we would ask some questions to see who would be interested, but mostly what would you like to do with those days? What is what would be your objective if you would come to the Bay and have a day or two together with us? So that could make it more like specific, and then we could make it actually happen.
Perfect. Anna and James, I hope you didn't have a 10 o'clock appointment, because it is way past that time now. What more could you ask for? Learning Portuguese in a beautiful setting like SFGP with a lovely lady like Anna. Sorted.
Good. Thank you.
I love cooking, so I purchased a cookery book in Portuguese. These are the little tips and hacks, aren't they, that work? Do what you love. I mean, this really underlines the whole idea here as we conclude the show today. And I've got a lovely video from the Algarve to finish with, thanks to Doug. But really, the parallels between this idea of Portuguese being difficult and mindfulness and beginner's mind and life itself, all of the insights we've got here are as applicable to Portuguese as they are to everything we do in life.
Yeah.
Tabitha's got a great idea here, like do what you love, and it's going to help, isn't it? But
Absolutely.
if we beat ourselves up with all those other things, like, I found a new reason to justify my belief that Portuguese is difficult today, it's not going to help, is it? It really isn't going to help. And the mindfulness is what helps catch us thinking things like that, and then we can let them go if we're lucky.
Yeah.
And humor is priceless. Laughing over your mistakes, laughing over the corrections. It's so critical to getting past that limiting thinking.
Yeah.
Just have fun with it. Oops, I messed up. Oh.
And so you don't have to. Oh yeah, watch out for the cat though. So maybe the cat will be for these workshops.
I'm not bringing the cat to the Days in the Bay. I'm not bringing.
Yeah, but you don't. It doesn't have to be a thing, does it? The mind turns things into a thing. Mindfulness, meditation, Portuguese, all of these concepts then become judged and evaluated. We're just living our lives, aren't we? We're just going about our life, laughing at ourselves, catching ourselves, thinking certain things and observing in that beginner's mind sort of way. So final thoughts to you both as we conclude this morning. Thank you so much for being here. Let's go to you first, Anna. What's your final thought?
I can only agree with what you just said. Have fun with it. Enjoy. Yeah. It's not that nothing is important, and it's not important being correct, being good at anything, any level, grammar. These are all. It's just not important. It's not important.
Okay, so if you got triggered by that, you can come to our Life and Death Cafe tonight, and we'll talk it through from 7 till 8. Because that will come as a newsflash, won't it, to some people? That all of us at some time have attachments to being right and correct about things, don't we? And funny little foibles that are tripping us up. So isn't it great to be able to have this moment of mindfulness every Monday morning? Last words to you then, Mr. Mindfulness himself, James Holley.
Well, I'm just remembering back, beginner's mind again, and it wasn't intentional, to when I first started learning Portuguese. And it was incredibly difficult. I was incredibly frustrated because I was attached to making faster progress, right? I wasn't patient with myself, all these things. And there were, through that first 6 months, I had the thought almost daily, this isn't worth it. No, I'm not going to do this. I wanted to quit. But when I gave it enough time and I could relax those limiting thoughts that Anna so eloquently talked about and start having fun and looking at what am I interested in, and it's like, oh, that's right, I'm interested in language in general, word origins, and I could begin to associate the things I loved with the thing I was trying to do. It became much easier. So sense of humor and doing what you love will make learning the language, it won't be difficult. It will just be learning the language.
Which brings us back to having a lover, doesn't it? Doing what you love will help with the language here. Also noticing the small touching things that
I love that one.
Help connect. Cheers. Jim's always good for a great insight. Thank you so much, both of you, this morning. I really wasn't sure how things were going to go this morning for all sorts of reasons, but I think this has been a beautiful session this morning. Thank you very much for being here, Anna and James. Ciao, ciao. We are going to play a video now from the Algarve, and we'll see you again tomorrow. And I might see you on the Life and Death Cafe this evening. Bye for now.
Ciao, ciao.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks, Carl. As you can see, Cortera is gradually waking up from its long slumber, and it's another fantastically beautiful day, which is what we want after all, isn't it? So let's have a look. Our parade of palm trees going off into the distance there. Let's see how good this zoom thing on the camera is, because it said I have a sea view. Well, I can't deny it, because kind of, yeah, I've got a sea view. So, nevertheless, it's just the first installment on a series of tasters I hope to do for you as my time progresses here on the Algarve. I've not been up to it. Like Carl, I've had the dreaded lurgy, so So basically that's put paid to any plans that I had to do any of your tasters. Well, we're up to 1 minute and 15 seconds. So basically, this is actually turning out very quickly to be a 2-minute taster. So I'm going to sign off and hand you back to Mr. Munson and see what else comes your way from this little camera of mine. For now, bom dia.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.